that squeak. We can't look behind or look ahead. It's just Wednesday.
Welcome back to Liquid Lunch. We're here and we've got Janice Nisker and Monica Black back here on Liquid Lunch to talk about something we're all going through, right, Jeanette?
And probably going to see a lot more of as we get closer to the holidays.
Yes, because, well, you guys, just maybe give us all a refresher on basically what you guys do, your business, and how you help people. And then we'll get into the nitty-gritty.
Okay, we are part of a company or group of people called the Solutions Group. It's 5 different disciplines that look after older adults and their families. We have a real estate agent who is well versed in barrier-free homes, and he helps to get people into homes if they need it so they can move around and sell those homes when those people are ready to move out and get other people into them. We have a home renovation specialist who will help people adapt their home to various needs as people get older. We have a financial advisor who will help people know what they can and cannot afford going into the future. And then there's us. And I'll let Monica explain what she does.
Our organization is called Simple Easy Transition, and we help seniors and their families go through the transition of downsizing, whether they're downsizing from the family home to a condominium, an apartment, or to help them to find a senior residence, and they're downsizing to a senior residence or a long-term facility. So we go through the decluttering process. We help them decide what to take, what not to take with them. We help them to pack up. We help them to unpack. And if the families need assistance with finding a senior residence for them, we'll also assist them to do that.
That's a really important thing. I know I'm going through that with my dad right
now. It
is. And
I mean,
where do you put all the stuff?
Exactly. And when was the last time your parents moved?
That's right.
A long, long time
Exactly.
ago.
And when you move, how stressful is that?
It's always stressful. What do they say? It's one of the most or the most stressful thing you can do?
Absolutely. So can you imagine for your parents, after living in the same home for 42 years, to actually move and leave their identity behind? It's huge.
Well, you know, but I know some, like my dad, like he's like game. He's game. He wants to go. Like, you know, so some it's maybe the opposite problem.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Fantastic for him.
And I have a different situation. My parents are not game, and I fight with them constantly.
I'm on their side, Jeanette, just so you know.
Of course. Anything to go against me.
And that's where Janice comes in.
So that's where my expertise kicks in, because my role is to be a family facilitator. Is to sit down with the families and say, okay, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? And listen without having judgment, and be objective and figure out for the family what is the best solution. And what the parent may want and what the child may want may not be the same, but there is always common ground to come together and figure out really what it is.
But it sounds like sometimes, too, you need a third party, a mediator, in a mediator position, because when you're dealing with families, sometimes everybody's pushing everybody's buttons.
That's right. And there's family dynamics, and this sibling, you know, has this relationship with the parents, and that one has that one, and the siblings don't get along, or I'm the favorite, or you know, nobody listens to me, and having somebody outside that has no interest in that drama in the family can just say, okay, well, here's the facts. Here's, you know, looking at everybody else, having somebody come in and talk to you about the money and about what's needed in terms of physical space, that you may need renovations, and it may be too costly, or it may be that there's some other solution for you, or it may be decluttering that's needed, or there's so many other things that people get so caught up that they don't see that there's actually solutions that are easily attainable.
It sounds like this should be a reality TV show.
It is. You know what? Every day it's a reality TV. It is reality. You know, yes.
That being said, so it is holiday time, and we are going to start visiting our parents. We may not have seen them for a couple of months. What are some of the you mentioned that there's 10. We don't know if we're going to cover all 10, but let's talk about some of the major tell signs that we should be looking for to see if our parents are in distress or depressed or needing to transition somehow.
So these are things that might come up when we're visiting with our families this Christmas, and these are things to watch out for.
Right.
Okay, so let's go through these.
Okay. Well, when you come in, if you're going to your parents' home, there's lots of things to look for. One is look at the condition of the home. If your parents were very neat and orderly and all of a sudden the house is not quite that way, if you see things at certain levels that, let's say everything sort of in between is okay, but higher up things aren't as clean as they were, and lower down things aren't as clean as they were, it's signs that they could be in pain. It could be that they're not able to do what they were once doing. It could be all kinds of things like that you need to start looking at. Well, do they need help? Is this a health issue? Is it a depression issue? What is it? And start to look into what some of these things might be.
What if the place is usually a mess, but now it's all neat and tidy?
Then that's a good thing. Then that means that they called Monica, and Monica came in and she cleaned up.
Our team came in and cleaned them
It
up.
could mean if one parent is deceased that they found a new partner.
It could be, and they want to have
which means
give a certain impression.
Yeah, that might give a whole new lease on life.
Absolutely.
Right? Something like
and
that
happens. And that happens. They get a new lease on life,
and that's a good thing.
Wow.
And that's a great thing.
So some of the other signs that we should be watching out for, because I don't know about your.
That's just number one, Jeanette.
I know. We're going to cover some more.
Yeah. I know. What
I'm
were you going to say?
I'm going to ask you, I don't know about your parents and family, but in mine, I find that my parents like to play the martyr. They don't want to tell you the truth about what's really going on, even when you probe. Everything's fine. So how do you get around that? Because, maybe the house is going to be clean because they knew the company was coming. They called the cleaning lady or whatever. But then when you go away, there are still things you just don't know about. How do you get at that information?
There are other ways.
Yeah, there are other ways. I think one of the ways is to talk to your parents and, not attack, not come from you, but talk to them and see what's going on in their life. But also to look at different things like, have they lost weight? Are they drinking a lot more than they used to? I know it's the holiday season and we're all enjoying ourselves and, we're all having alcohol, but are they drinking a lot more than they used to? Look in the fridge. Or is there a lot of food that has gone bad that they haven't eaten, and it's, so that means they're not eating properly. That means their nutrition has decreased. What's going on with their health? Those are their small trigger things that will sometimes get a conversation going. Hey, Mom, look at this food in the fridge. How long's that's been here? Or, just little things, rather than coming out and say, oh my God, the fridge is a mess, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Then they feel they're attacked. It's coming from a different place.
What about medications? If you see a lot of pills lined up, and you say, what do you say? Why does your doctor give you all this, or what?
One thing is that was another thing I was going to say, is to go into wherever their meds are being kept and look at the dates on them, and look at the dates of the refills to how many pills are in there. Are they taking their meds correctly? Are they taking what they're supposed to when they're supposed to? Are they taking too much? Are they taking too little? Those are things that are really important. And even with over-the-counter things, look at the expiry dates and make sure that what they're taking is not expired. Because people will say, well, I'm supposed to take 2 teaspoons, but I'm going to take 1. And then over time, it doesn't work, and then they wonder why things don't work. If you see a lot more medications, look to see what they are. Is it all different doctors prescribing it, or is it one doctor? Is it one pharmacy filling these prescriptions, or is it various pharmacies? All of these things make a difference, because if they're going to various pharmacies, it's highly likely that one pharmacist does not know what's being prescribed by another, and there can be drug interactions. That's another thing as well, is that if you look at the mood of your parents, sometimes they may seem depressed or unhappy, and it can be a direct effect of their medications if they're not being taken correctly, or side effects. I remember my father coming to me and asking me about a particular drug and saying that, and this is a little embarrassing for him, but it's the truth. He said, "Oh, I'm constipated." And I said, "Have you changed your drugs at all?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm taking a new drug." And I went and I looked it up and I said, "Well, constipation is a side effect of this drug. Pharmacists should tell you that to go and, take whatever
Plus, they should know better.
Adjunct.
They should know better too. The parents should know. It's a drug. There's interactions. Know what you're taking.
But they don't.
Hello?
They don't.
I know they don't.
Because they don't care anymore.
It's not that they don't care. They get that big sheet of paper that comes with the drug that's, 3 pages long, and they don't read it. I mean, people who are younger don't read it. People don't read it because they don't understand what they're reading. I mean, if you watch the drug commercials on TV and they say, well, this drug could cause death and it could cause this, but everything is great. Who would want to know that you don't want to know.
And also, I'm sure that the pharmacists might have mentioned it, but they have forgotten about it. So, I mean, other things to watch for is when you're there, is your parent conversations aren't linear. They're changing conversations and they can't remember what conversation you had. Or they usually put the keys up beside the door, but now they're putting the keys somewhere else at one time, putting the keys somewhere else at another time, or they may put the keys in the fridge. Red flag.
So is that something Alzheimer's?
Yeah, dementia is starting, or so
it can be.
It can be.
Not always.
It's not
People
yes.
jump to that, and
Yeah,
it's not.
yeah.
Again, it can be drug interaction and other things.
And there's other things that you need to look at. You have to look at the whole thing holistically, not just one particular thing. It could be something that's going on in their life at the time, but also talk to neighbors that they interact with. Are they still sociable? Are they still going to church or the synagogue, or are they still going to their social events? Are they becoming reclusive, that kind of thing? So look at the big picture. Just don't pick out one or two things and label it.
So if they're not going as much, or they have stopped traveling or doing any of these type of things, what would that be a sign of being more reclusive? Is that depression, or could be a sign of something else, maybe financial problems?
It could be, or it could be that they need assistance getting there.
Right.
It could be as simple as that, that they're
freedom
not,
driving.
exactly. They're actually not feeling secure driving anymore, but they're not telling you that. So that's why I'm saying you have to look at the whole thing holistically and not just at one thing.
Right, and that's the kind of thing where they could be in pain. They
Yes.
could be having other side effects from their drugs where they're not as stable and they're afraid, maybe to leave the home because they're not as stable, or they're experiencing hearing loss and they find that when they're in a social situation they can't hear, so it's not as enjoyable as it used to be. Again, look to see if their TV is turned up really loudly, their radios are turned really loudly, or when people are talking to them and they're answering, that the answers may not totally make sense to the questions. And people may think, oh, they're demented. It's not. It could be as simple as a hearing loss.
Yeah.
And hearing loss can be caused by even just wax in your ears. I can tell some stories about that. But, we jump to the conclusion, oh, they forget where their keys are. It's Alzheimer's. Oh, they're not making sense. But there can be so many reasons. It can be B12 deficiency that can be causing people to look depressed, and they're not. So when we see signs, it's just an opportunity to start looking. And usually the solutions are very easy, and they're not important they're not dire, that there are things that are easily fixed.
So this is a great opportunity for people to kind of, as you say, holistically look at everything. Because just because
Right.
there's one symptom or two isolated symptoms,
That's right.
Yes.
you look at it as a whole.
Right.
Exactly.
Right? And you
Right.
say, okay, it's time, we need to do something.
Yes.
And maybe they're not sure what to do. And
Yeah.
is that
Right.
where you guys come in?
Right.
Yes.
But before even they can maybe introduce you to the problem, don't they have to be able to approach the situation with their parents?
For sure.
What's your recommendation about that? Something to the effect of, Mom, Dad, I kind of noticed a few things. I'd like to know and be honest with me type. Like, how would you suggest it? What's the lingo one would use?
Well, it's really, here's the opportunity of the family sitting down together and saying, this is what I see. You know, I've talked to your neighbors. I see that things are slightly different. You know, what's going on? What's going on? You used to go to bingo every Wednesday, and now you're not. You know, what's happened? It's just really asking the questions. And, you know, and as you said, how willing your parents are going to be,
Yeah,
you
what
don't
if it
know.
sparks
You
a
don't
whole
know.
debate, though? Like, and you get into an argument or something
Well,
about it?
It
Because
can, but that's not the point of it. The point isn't to confront and say, well, there must be something wrong here. It's got to be an opportunity where you get to sit down as a family and say, hey, I'm concerned. I'm concerned. And have you talked to your doctor about this or that? Or, you know, I noticed you've lost weight. Is it, like, what is it? Is it that the food you're eating doesn't taste as good because of medicine interaction? Is it because you're having problems with your teeth and it's painful to eat?
or maybe
There
they
are
can't
so
cook anymore.
maybe it's cooking.
Yeah.
Maybe it's they can't get out to the grocery store like they used to, so they don't have as much to cook with. There are so many reasons that things happen that we can't make assumptions for any of them. You really got to
But I asked
do some
specifically,
finding.
how do you bring these things up? I mean, like, what are some of the? Do you have a suggested lingo or, you know, a phrase to use, something? Because, you know, you do care, and you know, we do worry about our parents. They do get older, but some parents, I'm sure you know, are very stubborn. And I would go so far as to say they're in denial, that, you know, they think they're living 30 years ago in the past, that everything's the same, but it's not. And, you know, so how do you broach these subjects? How do you get them to initiate change, or even to welcome a visit from someone like yourselves, so that you could get that next step in motion?
I think you have to be very careful how you approach it, because the thing is, you don't want to start an argument. You don't want to start
Right.
where they feel that you are taking away their power.
Right.
So it's the way you even start the conversation, and that's why we say look at things holistically, look at everything that's happening around, because then you can just say, you know, by starting a conversation, oh my goodness, Mom, like this, there's so much food here and it's gone bad. What happened? Just by starting that and then getting it to the next level, getting it to the lesson. I don't think you can come out rightly and say, this is what's going on in the house and you need to move now and you need to get into a senior residence and we're going to get somebody that does that.
You know, it's easy to say that, though,
It
because the thing is that families are, it's like, this is why you need a broker in real estate. You need sometimes a professional to come
That's
in,
right.
be that
Absolutely. And this
mediator
is
position,
exactly.
and because otherwise it could go horribly wrong.
Absolutely, and that's why somebody like Janice, who's trained in doing that,
Yeah.
comes in and talks to the entire family as a unit
All right.
about what's going on with Mom and Dad.
Okay.
And,
So
and sometimes humor is the best way, just to make a joke. You know, I remember a very long time ago, my grandmother had made something, and it was not good. And she wasn't the best of cooks, but this really was not good. And we went to look in one of the ingredients, and it was a flour type thing. And there was unfortunately bugs in it. So, you know, we kind of made a joke, but obviously it was a sign that, and it was high up.
Mhm.
Okay, was it because she couldn't reach it? Was it because she wanted to save money and didn't want to buy a new one? Was it that she didn't notice? I mean, there was a lot of things. So we kind of said, like, you know, what's going on here? Oh, look, you know, look,
Added
you have added protein. Exactly. Added protein. And, you know, and we found out that she was having problems getting up there. So it hadn't been sealed properly. She didn't really realize it. I don't think she really had the visual acuity anymore to see that possibly there was added protein
you know,
in
you
there.
don't have to seal it. Those bugs are going to get in there anyway.
But I'm saying, you know, unfortunately, people are very conscious of money,
Yeah.
and they think, well, I have
No.
a half a box of
Yeah.
whatever,
No, for sure.
I'll just keep it for another year.
And if you don't see it, I mean, that's just another one of those signs
Signs.
when
Yes.
you put it together with everything
Yes.
else.
Exactly.
Right, where you start
exactly.
looking and
Yeah.
asking questions.
Yes.
That's the other thing, is when you ask questions as opposed to making statements,
Exactly.
you'll get the right answers.
but you still might need a professional.
And you still might need a
Because,
professional.
right?
And sometimes even, going to the physician to make sure there isn't something treatable or physical going on.
Yeah.
That may be helpful for the family to know those things. When's the last time you went to the doctor? How are things going? Suggesting going with them. All of those things. And it's difficult when you live in a different place than your parent.
It is.
That's where it becomes more of a challenge.
Well, that's why as the holiday season approaches, it's a good idea for people whose parents are approaching this stage in life to keep this in mind and keep
Right.
all these things in mind when they go visit this holiday
Absolutely.
season.
That's right. That's
Absolutely.
right. Is to be really aware of changes.
Yes.
Just to look for changes.
And the other thing too, just as we close out here, I think that sometimes, the holiday season is the only time the siblings and the parents are together. And because everyone is so busy and maybe living, like you say, in different places, maybe more eager to act now
Exactly.
Right.
while they're all together rather
Absolutely.
than have to come back and reconvene to, do something
Right.
about
Yes.
it.
Right.
So, so I think that's a good point to mention too, that to work as a team with your siblings and noticing all these things
Yeah.
and try to minimize it, or make an arrangement where one of you or whomever, how many siblings you have, can maybe alter looking in on
Check
the
in,
parents more
definitely.
often.
Definitely.
Monica, did you want to say
Yeah, I
something?
was just onto that point, which is a brilliant point. Thank you for mentioning that. Is that it's also a process.
Yes, it is.
It is a process. It's not going to happen overnight unless the parent has fallen, is ended up in hospital, and has to move. It is a process, and you have to get your parents to agree to that process.
Absolutely.
And
Right.
they can't wait too late, because if they do, they become too old and nobody wants to take them, like an old folks home or whatever, right? They have to make applications.
That's correct.
Yes, you always want to be proactive.
Exactly.
You don't want to have to be reactive.
Exactly.
That's a
All right,
big
guys.
deal.
Okay.
So
So
this
we're out
is,
of time, and
yeah.
we just want to mention that Janice has a giveaway today of the first family meeting at a $150 session. Do you have anything to add,
Yes,
Monica?
a 2 hours with the senior, and we'll assist them to go through their home and decide what to declutter, what to throw out,
And what is the value on that?
the value is $150.
Okay. So, Janice, let's hear your contact first. Where can we find you and your website?
Okay, my website is www.seniors with an S movingforward.ca, and you can get me, if you want me, at Jane Nisker at seniorsmovingforward.ca, and my phone number is 416-619-5935.
And Nisker is Nisker.
Nisker.
Okay, Monica, let's hear your contact info.
It's www.simpleeasytransition.com, and it's 2 E, so it's SIMPLEEASY, and it's transition, not transitions. My contact information, my phone number is 416-908-1181, and you can reach me at monica@simpleeasytransition.com.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you both for being here.
Thank you
and
for
we're
having
about
us.
to close out, so I just want to say that I will be back on the third Monday in December, which is December 19th, for an exciting holiday special with a really fun-filled, jam-packed show. And Hugh will be back.
And you're bringing those latkes.
Yes, we're
with,
going to have latkes.
right, with
yes.
the bacon.
No, not with the bacon. We
No,
don't
I
do
want-
bacon with latkes. Sorry. Maybe latkes.
I think they should
Maybe
come with
latkes
bacon.
if you're lucky.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Maybe.
Okay,
But
Jeanette.
don't push your luck.
All
Okay.
right.
And some donuts. We're
Donuts,
gonna have
okay,
a,
we can go for donuts.
No, I'm.
As long as they're made out of an edible oil
We're gonna
product,
have a
I'm good with it.
holiday show. We're gonna do some Christmas. We're gonna do some Hanukkah. We're gonna do some of the other
Kwanzaa,
holidays. To be fair to
Kwanzaa.
all
Sounds like
countries
a-
and all nations.
Engelbert Humperdinck song.
Yes, and you'll be back tomorrow at
Yes,
12
that's
o'clock.
right here on ThatChannel.com. We'll see you then. Thanks, Jeanette.
Thanks.
you hear all? Oh, can't you hear all? Can't you hear me? Oh, can't you hear? Can't you hear? Can't you hear me? Oh, can't you hear? Can't you hear? Can't you hear me? We can't kid ourselves. Everything we do is for the screw. The big screw. Everything we wear, everything we drive, everything we buy is for the screw. The big screw.